Hola, it's Rachel from Wait Que, your Spanglish podcast de confianza. When we started this podcast, I had no idea how much work went into it. Recording, editing, designing logos, managing socials. Each day brought a new challenge. Starting something from scratch is exciting, pero it can also be very overwhelming. That's why I wish I had something like Shopify back then. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and it's also perfect for anyone getting started. Build your online store with Shopify's professional templates, and let their AI tools help write descriptions, polish photos, and generate headlines. Shopify's got your back with inventory, shipping, returns, and all the not-so-glamorous parts of running a business. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your site. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/sonoro. Go to shopify.com/sonoro for more information.
Sonoro presents A Murder in Montecito, a new murder mystery podcast about a best-selling author who must solve a crime off the page.
Murdered! She was definitely murdered!
Deanna must uncover the killer amongst them, but when the killer catches on,
I have to stop you.
how will Deanna write her way out of this one? Sonoro presents A Murder in Montecito. A Murder in Montecito is available wherever you listen to podcasts.
I sat on the bed. The bathroom door was open and something was peering out. Something inside the mirror was peering out with its hands pressed against the glass. I got up running, and the only thing I could do was close the door.
Very good night to the best community on the internet. Hello to all the people who are part of the Tales of the Night community. I hope you are in the best possible mood to listen to the following 7 brief stories of the paranormal. And if not, and if there is some pending matter, some worry out there, right now we'll make you forget about it, but it won't be free. We're going to change that feeling for fear, for the terror that one of the following stories becomes reality. Because these are very, very close experiences. Encounters with the supernatural that will not take us to a distant place, to an old mansion, or to a castle in a European country. The following stories happen in those places that you visit and inhabit every day. So be careful, because if it's not in this episode, I'm sure that very soon there will be one in which you will be the protagonists of Tales of the Night. Hello, community. I am from the municipality of Naucalpan, but I work in Mexico City, where I have to commute every day. That's why I use public transportation, specifically the microbus for the last part of my journey. For those who don't know, a micro is a kind of small bus, a size that is used in almost all big cities, but I think everywhere they're called differently. Here, the dangerous thing about these in particular is that they are driven at great speed to compete for passengers among themselves. But one gets used to the bumps, the brakes, and the sharp turns. I remember this happened on a Monday, during a season of heavy work at the office. I left late, but I ran to catch the metro, and after that, the microbus. Hurrying to get home, it was already very late, and I was barely going to manage to sleep a little to get up again in a few hours, shower, and try to arrive on time to repeat my day again. That's what I was thinking about on the microbus, tired from that day and tired from what was coming the next day, when I noticed that it was almost empty. I usually go almost to the end of the route, so when I travel at those hours it almost becomes normal. But this time, there was something I didn't like. Something that was beginning to make me uncomfortable. I noticed that through the mirror the driver kept turning to look at me constantly. I started searching through my things. I wasn't carrying the pepper spray that had been in my bag for years, hoping to never use it. Who knows at what moment I had taken it out. Then a man who was sitting in a seat behind the driver got off, and he wouldn't stop looking at me through the mirror. I was sitting about in the middle of the micro. I quickly turned around to look around me, and there was only one other passenger left in the last row, pressed against the window, an elderly lady. She wasn't going to be much help, but still I sat sideways and kept watching her out of the corner of my eye, hoping she wouldn't get up and ask to get off. Because then I didn't know what I was going to do. Get off with her too in the middle of a street I didn't know. "Hey guys, if you want to move closer over here," the driver suddenly said. That gave me chills, and I told him I was fine, that I was almost getting off. From time to time I would see him through the mirror, and his eyes, when turning, were increasingly anxious. I had to do something. So I decided to get up and walk toward the back, to get close to the lady next to the door. But when I stood up, the lady in the last row was no longer there. I was confused. She didn't look strange. She was just a woman, nothing more. An elderly woman who was coming with her eyes closed. I let out a scream and the driver braked. He yelled at me to get off with him and got out. He told me not to stay alone. He stayed at the door waiting for me, and at that moment I ran toward him. He was a somewhat chubby man. He was sweating, nervous. That anxious look that had seemed threatening to me before suddenly became innocent, almost childlike. Once off the micro, I almost had to calm him down. "The lady wasn't coming, did you notice? She suddenly appeared. It's the second time she's gotten on my bus," he told me, and I felt as if they had poured a bucket of cold water on me. A ghost had just appeared to me. I didn't know what to tell him, and the driver tried to calm down. He apologized to me. He told me we should continue, that he would stop to let me off, that it was already late. So I got on and sat in the seat closest to him, and I no longer dared to look back, but he would raise his eyes to the mirror that watched over his entire microbus, and every so often, he would calm me down. "She's not coming anymore, girl. She's not coming anymore. No one is coming anymore." I arrived home safe but very scared. Sometimes I encounter that same driver again. We greet each other with our eyes, although of course we never talk. I haven't seen anything else and I hope he hasn't either. When I encounter him very late, as soon as I can, I move to the front seats. When I get off, he asks me to take good care of myself. And I, although I'm not a believer, always tell him to go with God for the rest of his route. A few years ago, when I finished high school, I looked for work everywhere to be able to help at home. I ended up finding work at a motel where I later realized almost no one wanted to work. When I arrived on my first day, we noticed that a lady was training 3 new people who would work the night shift. A young guy, a girl named Reina, and me. It was a drive-by motel, one of those that you pay by the hour, in the middle of a boulevard. Very busy during the day, but very lonely at night. The only thing nearby was a gas station 100 meters from the motel. We asked her why they had changed all the staff at the same time, because we were all new on that shift, and the lady told us that she precisely had to talk to us about that. And it was that in one of the rooms, something very ugly had occurred. Something terrible. A crime. That room, number 45, could not be occupied, even if we ever filled capacity. We understood, and it was to a certain extent obvious. Maybe it was still a crime scene and something needed to be investigated. So we started the shift with as much normalcy as we could. There were only 2 occupied rooms. The lady in charge suddenly approached to tell me she was going out for a while, that she would be back in a few hours. And since I didn't know how that worked and thought it was normal, I told her it was fine and didn't suspect anything. Before leaving, she reminded me that there was no cleaning staff coming. I had to go check the rooms when they were vacated, and that Reina and I should remain at the entrance at the cash register. Reina and I started chatting. Benny did all the pending tasks and then came over to us. Everything was very boring. From there, we had a view of only a piece of deserted boulevard, in the middle of nowhere, where absolutely no one passed by anymore. The phone rang from one of the occupied rooms. They asked us for a couple of beers. The voice sounded very young. It was an almost nervous young man. Benny took them to him. We continued like that for almost another hour, bored, talking among ourselves. What had brought us to that place, to end up working at a motel? Our stories, although different, had enough similar situations to understand each other well, to have empathy. The phone rang again. The nervous young man asked us for a couple more beers. He sounded even more anxious than the previous time. This time Reyna, although it wasn't her turn to do that, decided to take them to him. When she came back, she seemed somewhat amused. She told us she had managed to see the boy and his companion, a woman much older than him. She said he looked very shy and nervous, as if it were his first time in a place like that. Benny and I laughed, although we were almost the same age as the boy. The phone rang again. We laughed, thinking the young man was going to ask for one more beer, and Reyna answered. "Reception, how can I help you?" Reyna said. "Reception, good evening, can I offer you something else?" Reyna repeated, smiling, thinking about how nervous that young man must be. But I saw that the light that came on was not from the same room. The identifier indicated that we were being called from room 45. Reyna made a sign for us to see. Benny was already inside with us. We were so quiet that we all managed to hear the breathing on the line. We hung up. The job was to go check, but we didn't let him go alone. Besides, we were all so scared that we decided to go together or not separate. We went through the inside, through a hallway with doors to all the rooms. We opened the one that led to room 45. The room door was closed. Everything smelled of dust. It had been a long time since anyone had been there. Everything was dark, but it was very strange. We had a very clear feeling that there was someone inside. We returned to the front office and Benny simply gathered his things. He said there was no way he was going to stay there. And so, 2 hours after starting his shift, he took his things and left. We just watched him walk away down that deserted boulevard that looked ominous, but probably not as ominous as staying there. I asked Reyna what she wanted to do. She told me she wasn't planning to come back the next night, but that she simply couldn't abandon the job like that in the middle of the shift. We sent a message to the lady. We told her what happened, that we were scared, and that Benny had left. Without asking us anything, she told us that if we waited a little longer for her to return, one of the two could leave, that the other would stay to help her finish the shift, that she would give us a couple of days. In the end, we both stayed there. Nothing else happened. The lady also didn't want to explain anything to us, but something in her way of understanding made us know that it wasn't the first or last time that happened to her. We fulfilled our commitment. We didn't return. I never knew anything more about Reyna or Benny. The motel then closed, and sometime later I passed by there and saw it open again. Remodeled with another name. You, community. Do you think those manifestations go away with time? Or that something still feels strange there? That something still happens in room 45?
Hola, it's Rachel from Wait Que, your Spanglish podcast de confianza. When we started this podcast, I had no idea how much work went into it. Recording, editing, designing logos, managing socials. Each day brought a new challenge. Starting something from scratch is exciting, pero it can also be very overwhelming. That's why I wish I had something like Shopify back then. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and it's also perfect for anyone getting started. Build your online store with Shopify's professional templates, and let their AI tools help write descriptions, polish photos, and generate headlines. Shopify's got your back with inventory, shipping, returns, and all the not-so-glamorous parts of running a business. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your site. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/sonoro. Go to shopify.com/sonoro for more information.
I've been listening to Tales of the Night since February, but since I started, I haven't been able to stop. I think that's why I have the courage to share this story that isn't anything spectacular, nor do I think it's the most terrifying thing you've heard. But I'll let you judge. At the beginning of 2024, my girlfriend's uncle came to visit us. He lives in a town near the city about 3 hours away and has a couple of cabins that he rents by seasons on an app. On that visit, before going to the airport because he was going to leave the country for a couple of months, he left them the keys to one of those cabins. He told them they could go whenever they wanted, that it didn't have heating at that moment and that's why he wasn't offering it to tourists on Airbnb. At that time, I was going through a difficult stage. I had to deliver a very important project at work, but I couldn't concentrate at my house. I lived with 2 roommates with whom I no longer got along well, and there were arguments all the time. I told my girlfriend about it, and her dad, who heard the conversation, reminded her that they had the cabin keys. That if I wanted to go for a few days to finish my project, I could do it there. There was no signal or good internet, but I thought that could help me be completely disconnected, to concentrate on writing. That's why I accepted. I put the address in the navigator, drove there, and yes, the cabin was far, very far from the city. But also once I arrived, from the town. Upon arriving, I realized there was nothing around. No other cabins nearby, no business, not even the main road. The little signal they had told me about was actually nothing. Intermittent. At times the phone connected, and at times it didn't. Suddenly all the pending messages would arrive to me. All at once they would be answered, and they would take minutes to go out. I opened the windows to ventilate. The place smelled stored, of old wood. But I'm not very particular about those things. I just installed myself, turned on the computer, tried to work, and I was so tired from the trip and from the days of tension that at one point, without realizing it, I simply fell asleep with my head on the keyboard. Until my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I hesitated for a second, but I answered and heard a very strange voice that very slowly said to me, "Your results." I felt cold running down my spine. I turned around. The windows were still open. I got up and closed them immediately, but I didn't understand anything. Who had called me? There was no one nearby. There was no way someone was watching me. No one knew I was there. Only my girlfriend and her dad. And they wouldn't have done something like that. I closed everything. I took my things, got in the car, and returned to the town. I stayed in a small hotel. But at least there, in the next 2 days, I was able to finish my work. I never told my girlfriend that I wasn't capable of spending a single night in that cabin. I have just refused every time she tells me we could go for a weekend, that she still has a copy of the keys, that the invitation is still open. I don't know how to tell her that I prefer never to go near there again. Oh, community. I've already told a couple of stories here, and one of them came out on the program in 2020 during the pandemic. What I want to tell you happened a little later. We stayed to sleep at my mom's cousin's house due to a family emergency. It wasn't very far, but unexpected events occurred that made us be with the relatives until very late, and they decided it was better for us to stay nearby, on the back street. In that house, I had to sleep in the children's room that night when they weren't there. They told me to make myself comfortable there, and that if I needed anything, my mom would be in the room next door. The room was fine, but there was something I didn't like at all. The window faced the back part of a Christian church. It was a very small patio with some dry grass and a fence. I lowered the thick, dark curtains that didn't let any light through. Those blackout ones I don't like. I hate when dawn comes and not being able to see the light, but I preferred to close them than to see toward that scenery that, for some reason, made me uncomfortable. Churches have something, all of them of any religion, that at night give me fear. That contrast of day, full of people celebrating God. It seemed to me that at night, solitary, they became the opposite. But I closed the window, turned off the light, and tried to sleep. When dawn came, I was awakened by the sound of a child playing, as if he were running from one side to another behind the window, in the church, laughing, playing alone, making noises like of a little car. I was lying down, but I had my eyes closed. I still didn't want to open them. I just wanted to go back to sleep, but the child wouldn't stop making noise. Suddenly I heard a woman approach. She started scolding him first quietly and then louder. She was scolding him very badly, yelling at him. And then hits were heard. It made me very angry. I got up from the bed and went to open the curtain. I wanted that woman to see that someone was listening to her, that she would know she wasn't alone, that she would stop. Well, as soon as I touched the curtain, as soon as it was lifting, everything fell silent. Nothing could be heard. When I opened the curtain, I realized it was still night. In front of me was that patio behind the church, completely dark. There was absolutely no one there. I went directly to my mom's room. I didn't say anything. I just told her if I could stay with her. And although my mom didn't ask me anything, the next day she told me she didn't like sleeping in that house, that it always gave her weird vibes. Only then did I tell her. My mom told me that in certain places, some nights you can hear the voices of the dead. Thank you for continuing here, community. And don't forget to comment to us in this space and on social media if you also like short stories. We like many of them. And stories with a lot of information. Stories that let us get to know a family well, a town, a moment in time. But from time to time, it's also interesting to give space to these that get to the point, that are direct. So also if you have one like that, don't hesitate to share it. Remember that all your stories are welcome. For now, the intermission is over. It's time to continue because there are still 2 more stories left tonight. Hello, community. This is the first time I share something with you. I am 20 years old, but what I'm going to tell happened when I was 10. I have never forgotten it, not even a little bit. It's one of those things that stay stuck, even if no one else talks to you about it afterward. At that time, I lived with my parents and my younger sister, Ingrid. But my dad had another son from a previous relationship, Jorge, who was much older than us. He was 15 years older than me. When he turned 18, he left the house, and since then we saw him very little. He lived from city to city. He always found some more or less good job. He had a talent for always landing on his feet. He would stay there for a while and then disappear again. By the time this happened, we had gone almost 2 years without knowing about him, and one day out of nowhere we saw him enter through the door at night. He brought a bag of gifts for my sister and me. My mom almost fainted when she saw him. Although he wasn't her son, she always loved him as such. She left us with him in the living room and told him to wait, and that she would go look for my dad, who had gone out to help a neighbor with his car. He hadn't taken his phone, but he was close, so we stayed chatting with him in the living room. Excited to see him again, we asked him if he was going to stay with us, and he said if we had a few days.
Jorge.
We heard a voice we had never heard before. Very clear. It came from the second floor. The voice came from my parents' empty bedroom. We fell silent. Ingrid and I looked at each other. There was no one else in the house. No one else. My brother also fell silent, but his expression changed as if he had recognized the voice. He got up and asked us to go out to the patio. We followed him very nervously, and out there he met my dad, who was already coming back for him. Jorge didn't tell him anything about what happened, and my dad was so happy that he told him we should all have dinner together. He went to buy the chicken he had always liked as a child. After dinner, Jorge said he was going to stay to sleep in the living room, that he would see us in the morning, but he didn't stay. At some point in the early morning, he left. He didn't leave a note. He didn't say anything. He just left. He doesn't have social media. Since that day, I have only seen him 2 more times, and since I also don't live with my parents anymore, well, it's increasingly difficult to coincide. But someday I'm going to do it. Someday I'm going to ask him about that voice, about that thing we heard, about that thing that called him by his name. Because Ingrid and I heard it, both of us heard it, and we talk about it from time to time, and now we both want to share that memory with you. We know it was real. I remember that when I was a child, I accompanied my mom and my aunt to visit a lady who, according to what they told us, was going to give my mom some remedies. She had a very strong stomach pain that wouldn't go away with anything, and someone recommended she go see her. The house was far away, and from the moment we entered the property, I knew it was different from any I had visited before. It was big, huge, like a soap opera mansion, but old, very old. One of those that seem to speak of a wealth that is already gone. The enormous patio. I remember the car advanced about 30 meters from the gate to the entrance. That entire path was surrounded by dry plants, as if at some point the garden had been very beautiful. But no longer. And it was there, right there, when we were arriving, that I saw her. A girl was running parallel to the car among the plants and was waving at me. I waved back surprised, and then she hid among the bushes. We entered the house. The lady was waiting for us in the dining room. It was one of those very dark, heavy wooden dining rooms, with high chairs, and she was sitting at the head. She seemed very old. She didn't get up to greet us. She just made a sign with her hand. But what caught my attention the most was the boy who was behind her. A boy of about 12 years old, very white and tall, but with a child's face. He was standing right behind the chair, as if he were taking care of her. My mom and my aunt started talking with the lady. I didn't understand anything. They talked about herbs, baths, about things that didn't interest me. So I asked if I could go out to play. No, the lady told me without looking at me. I told her I just wanted to go look for the girl in the garden, the one who was among the plants, just to say hello. The lady then turned to look at me. For the first time in the visit, she frowned. "There is no girl here," she told me. And it was then that I saw the boy open his eyes wide, as if he had been frightened. He shook his head at me, very slowly, very clearly. He made a signal to me, as if telling me, "Don't talk about that." I felt a chill throughout my body. I was very small, but I understood it. I understood what was happening. I had seen something I shouldn't have. I had just seen a ghost. When we left there, I didn't say anything. I went quiet, thinking about the girl and the boy. I asked my mom if she had seen the girl, but she told me no. Neither when we arrived nor when we left. She told me there was no girl in that house. And from what she told me later, I understood that that lady was not a healer, that we had gone to see a witch. But that's not where the story ends. Recently, I remembered all this. I wanted to tell you this story. I was talking with my mom and my aunt, the 3 of us who went that day, and I told them I could never forget that visit, that I wanted to send my experience to a podcast I trusted to tell my story. When reviewing everything, we agreed on almost all the details, except for one. They didn't see any boy behind the lady, the pale boy who was behind her chair, the one who looked at me so seriously, the one who made that warning gesture to me. They didn't see him. He wasn't there. And almost 20 years later, I realized that afternoon it wasn't one. That afternoon I saw 2 ghosts.
Hola, it's Rachel from Wait Que, your Spanglish podcast de confianza. When we started this podcast, I had no idea how much work went into it. Recording, editing, designing logos, managing socials. Each day brought a new challenge. Starting something from scratch is exciting, pero it can also be very overwhelming. That's why I wish I had something like Shopify back then. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and it's also perfect for anyone getting started. Build your online store with Shopify's professional templates and let their AI tools help write descriptions, polish photos, and generate headlines. Shopify's got your back with inventory, shipping, returns, and all the not-so-glamorous parts of running a business. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your site. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/sonoro. Go to shopify.com/sonoro for more information.
Oh, community, this is the first time I dare to write to you. I've been listening to Tales of the Night for more than a year and have always wanted to tell something, but I hadn't dared. This story happened to me recently. It was very brief, but until now, I haven't been able to find any explanation for it. And although the object that I think caused it is no longer here, I can't stop thinking that maybe it wasn't this object itself that was wrong, but this place from where I write to you. Let's see what you think. It all started with my daughter. She's 7 years old. She's a very good girl. Calm, very imaginative, but very noble. She had never been afraid of being alone. She spent her time in her room. She played there. She slept without problem. But suddenly she started saying strange things. First, I didn't want to take it seriously. She told me she didn't want to go to the bathroom alone, that she didn't want to brush her teeth, so she better did it in my room. I thought it was laziness, that it was to avoid brushing her teeth, but it wasn't. Once or twice, it was already all the nights she would take her brush, her cup, her toothpaste, everything, and get into my bathroom. I asked her what was happening. She told me that her reflection said ugly things to her in the mirror. I told her it was impossible, that a reflection can't talk, that she probably dreamed it or it was her imagination. But she didn't listen to me. As if what I was saying didn't make sense. But then she started sleeping badly. She would wake up in the early morning. She would come to my bed until she finally started sleeping there from the beginning. She would bring her little blanket, her dolls, and no longer wanted to return to her room. I wanted to calm her down. So I told her that night I was going to sleep with her, that I was going to see that nothing was happening. And I did it. That night, I lay down next to her, in her little bed. She fell asleep very quickly. I was also falling asleep. But something woke me up. It was a little tap, as if someone taps glass very softly. Twice. I opened my eyes, confused. I thought my daughter had gotten up, but when I turned, I felt her there, next to me. I sat up slowly. The bathroom door was open. From there, I saw her. A figure. A girl identical to my daughter, peering from the darkness of the bathroom, with her hands pressed against the glass of the mirror, watching in silence. I got up without thinking. I walked to the bathroom door and closed it. I didn't want to look anymore. I didn't want to verify anything. The next morning, as soon as dawn came, I tore the mirror from the bathroom. It was one of those big ones stuck to the wall. I removed it as I could. I took it out of my house and went to leave it on the street. Just that day the garbage was passing by. But the garbage truck never picked it up. Someone took it before. I don't know who. I only know it wasn't there when I returned to see. And now I don't know what to think. I don't know if that thing was in the mirror and left with it, or if the mirror was only the medium. And what manifests itself is still here, in this house, even though it no longer has a medium to show itself.
Hola, it's Rachel from Wait Que, your Spanglish podcast de confianza. When we started this podcast, I had no idea how much work went into it. Recording, editing, designing logos, managing socials. Each day brought a new challenge. Starting something from scratch is exciting, pero it can also be very overwhelming. That's why I wish I had something like Shopify back then. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and it's also perfect for anyone getting started. Build your online store with Shopify's professional templates, and let their AI tools help write descriptions, polish photos, and generate headlines. Shopify's got your back with inventory, shipping, returns, and all the not-so-glamorous parts of running a business. If you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into with Shopify on your site. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/sonoro. Go to shopify.com/sonoro for more information.
Sonoro presents A Murder in Montecito, a new murder mystery podcast about a best-selling author who must solve a crime off the page.
Murdered! She was definitely murdered!
Deanna must uncover the killer amongst them, but when the killer catches on, how will Deanna write her way out of this one? Sonoro presents A Murder in Montecito. A Murder in Montecito is available wherever you listen to podcasts.